Hi guys, this is the Be More podcast. I'm Brittany,
I'm Maria.
and
Oh,
I
I guess
totally
you
did that wrong.
you asked our workshopped intro because then that threw me off
But then
again.
I did it wrong. I was supposed to say, "Hey guys, I'm Brittany,
And I'm Maria, and
and
this
this
is
is
the
the Be More podcast." I still
and
did it wrong. It's fine. It'll get right eventually. Anywho, thanks so much for hanging out with us. It is a not very nice Sunday.
it's
It's
cold.
freezing. I'm drinking a turmeric latte right now, and it's making my whole life.
Is it just turmeric and steamed milk
Yeah,
and
and
espresso? Do you have
yeah, I
espresso?
use like no. Well, I put a little like extra coffee in it because I need it.
Okay,
But it's almond milk and like this little packet of turmeric
okay.
that I
Mm.
have. And I think it's got some other like seasonings in it, and then I add it starts with a C.
Sugar?
Cinnamon.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? Okay, cool.
My brain is just so guys, I can't I feel like a toddler this week. I feel like a
It's
toddler.
fine.
Like just
It's the week before
excitement
your wedding. It's
and
fine.
like and then so all over the place. But yeah, but I'm having it and it's warm and I currently have like warm heated beads fresh from the microwave around my neck. So I'm like really
I have water.
good for you.
Like,
Hydration
just
counts.
hydration.
That's where we are today.
Yeah, and I keep
Um
moving. So I sent Brittany a
oh,
TikTok about
guys, I laughed out loud. I laughed out loud. So
I don't
funny.
know what her name is. She's actually a very famous TikToker, and it was literally just like a meme about podcasters with their mic, and it's like just her just moving around her mic and like taking it off the stand and just like
It's
I'm
so
like
funny.
doing it now, and I'm like, yeah, like I keep moving the mic, but it is what it is.
It is what it
I
is.
can't
Such is
sit
life.
still. I literally cannot sit still.
Which is good, guys. Maria's like more awake and gonna be so much herself because now she's not stressed with work stuff, which is awesome. And we're
Yeah,
gonna talk
correct.
a little bit about that today. But I
Yes.
was listening to a really interesting. I found that I really like to listen to people talk about their research.
Okay.
Does
Their
that
own
sound like a
research?
nerd? Like does that
No,
sound any nerdy? Could it be
like they're
any
just
nerdy?
promoting their book or whatever research that they have. Yeah.
Yeah, but like they or when they come on to like do an interview or honestly one of the reasons that I love to attend conferences and I really miss getting to do that. I go to mini ones now, but I love listening to people talk about their findings and share knowledge. I love that.
Yeah.
Especially in areas where I know that myself I'm never going to do research.
So they do it for you, and then you just
Yeah, they
listen.
do it for I mean that's what's really
Yeah.
cool about research. Like that's the thing. Like people do all the data, they collect all the data or they do reviews and they collect all the data and then they share that information with you and it's just like a cheat code to being able to learn stuff because then you don't have to do all the work and they kind of give you all this awesome information. Um
That is if you some people don't believe that.
what?
People's research sometimes. Can you believe that shit?
I mean, yes. I mean, I will tell you that there are a
Some
lot of
research is biased, let's be real here. Like
right.
some research is biased. I'll give you
Exactly.
that. But if it's like
And that's one of
unbiased and
the
they have like, all the data for both sides and they conclude in one side, then yes.
yeah,
But if you're
there are
skewing it,
super
yeah.
specific like guidelines to gathering data that's you're it's supposed to be unbiased. It's supposed to be
Right, right.
very
Not
outside of your emotional
subjective. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
not
yeah,
outside of your emotions and your own thoughts on it, which makes it really hard to do research.
right.
Um but and I get it. I think you want to know what's really funny is somebody was talking the other day.
Hmm.
I was at a dance convention yesterday around, all of like similar like-minded people and we were talking about like research and like resources that we share. And one of the women made a comment. She was like, "Oh, I like this place because I like the resources they give, but sometimes I read them and I don't agree with what they say." And then she's like, "And then I won't share that, but I share a lot of their data that they collect." And I was like, "Good. You should be able to critically think and analyze and not just
Go
not
with
just go with what they say because they have a name or they've done the work." And she was like, "I like you." That was her response to what I said.
I
And I was
like
like,
you.
"Thank you." Good. I'm so glad that you agree. But you're right. Like people are allowed to I guess it's a double-edged sword, right? People are allowed to say that they don't agree with science. Um
Yeah. Which is what's happening.
but right, which is what's happening. I actually just got a pin yesterday. One of the women was talking about mental health awareness because she's a dance movement therapist, and she had a pin that says "No science, no stigma." So like no KNOW science,
Oh,
NO stigma,
okay, okay.
as like talking about how like science should be enough to tell you like this is not something that you should stigmatize or judge because it's science that about mental health. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's I mean, I guess when it comes to science, I guess that's a place that we argue and we shouldn't. But the place that we shouldn't, the place that we should argue and actually critically analyze is when we take on the opinions of others, um,
Yeah.
and then we don't critically analyze that information. That's backwards. We're ass backwards,
Correct.
um, which kind of leads us into the topic that we wanted to talk about today. So I was listening to a researcher kind of summarize a study that they had conducted on Olympic athletes. And I think I was listening to this right at the end, the tail end of when the Olympics had ended.
Okay.
But they were like looking into they were studying competition and comparison. And they wanted to see like who was the happiest person, right? Like was it the person who won the gold medal or was it like somebody else who was, more happy? Like who was it? And obviously their thought was like obviously the person who wins the gold medal would be the
One would,
happiest person,
yeah,
right?
one would
Like
think, yeah, yeah,
every time I think about this, I think about like the people who win the Super Bowl and are like, I'm going to Disney, you know?
yeah, all the damn time. Disney really has a
Uh,
chokehold on the
they really
NFL.
did. That was a brilliant business work on their end. But
Honestly.
so anyway, they did this study and they were talking to all these Olympians and after the Olympics was over, they found their conclusion was that the person who won second place was the one who was the least happy
Makes
because
sense.
all they could do was focus on the fact that they didn't get the gold, while
Mm-hmm.
people in first were like elated for winning. And then the people who were in bronze and like below that
Yeah.
were just happy
To be
to
there.
have well people who were bronze were just happy to have gotten a medal, while the other people who weren't in the top three were just happy to have competed and were able to enjoy like an amazing experience, right?
Yeah.
um, and it's funny because it reminds me of, and I don't are you like familiar with Abby Lee Miller to any
Dance moms?
extent? Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of her biggest things, and guys, this is literally everything I work against in the dance world, and it's a show. I'll also say that to you, like it's a
Yeah.
scripted show. But it's funny because one of her biggest sayings that caught fire in the dance world is that like if you come in second place, you're the first to lose.
Uh, yeah. And what a negative connotation for being
Um,
second.
and it literally like she literally got really famous. Like people all like kids would all take that to heart and think that, right, whether when they're going to compete. But I thought it was interesting how, right, like we all expect first place to be happy, like get it, understood. And it's nice to know that like the people who are third and below, like we're still excited, but like that second place person is like, crap, I lost, and that's all that like that sticks in their head. They lose all
Yeah.
the other good stuff. And this was like just like the introduction into a conversation about competition and comparison and how that comparison between yourself as like the first loser
Mm-hmm.
versus just comparing yourself upwards to look at that person versus not turning around and being like, hey, look, I still like
I got
scored
second.
higher than everybody, right, than
I
everybody
got
else, and
second.
like I still had this amazing experience like everyone
Right.
else who scored lower feels. um it was just really interesting to hear about that, and I know I've felt that feeling before.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I don't
Fair enough.
understand where it comes from.
Um, the need to just win. I don't know. It's just competition. I just feel like everything is just about number one and forget everyone else, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not surprised. I think I've heard that too, just a long time ago that like the person that comes in second is usually the one that's super sad about it. Um, because they're like right there. They're like
Yeah.
this close to
You
like
just
winning
missed the
it.
target.
Right, but also like you got second. Like like at least like be happy that you're in that position to even just be second.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
then
So
it's
I've
exactly.
never had that negative connotation of being second
Oh.
personally.
See, and like so I've been in this is the issue with being in like individual
Yeah.
competition as much as I was, and then the entire dance world really becomes individual competition, which is really sad. But
Yeah.
it like it's not only like you're the first to lose, you're the first person to hate yourself. And I guess it has a lot to do with the way that other people around you respond, right? If you have a
Oh,
teacher
that's
who's
true.
constantly telling you, "Oh, you got second, you're the first person to lose," that's
Okay,
gonna
that's fucked up.
that right. Even if you get over it, if
That's fucked
the
up.
like
Yeah.
environment around you is not over it and constantly harps on you about it, then it's gonna have a bigger impact. Um, but it was so interesting. It made me really start thinking about like how competition comes into play in our society and how it breeds into comparison. And
Yeah, all the time.
like it's such a mindset in our in our society. And they ended up talking like leading conversation into like how like competition leads to comparison, which then leads to like overconsumption, which then leads to stress.
Which
And
then leads to burnout.
which then leads to burnout, right? Which we'll talk about in our next episode. So great
Great
trial here.
topics.
Yeah. Um, but and I feel like this even happened, and this is a lot of the stuff that happened between me and my brother with competition is like grades as a kid,
Oh
and like
yeah,
even
forget
among
it.
your classes, like even
Yeah.
like leading up to like the end of the I was like grossly obsessed with like where everyone in our classes
Me
was
too.
in the top 100 of our
And
class.
you know why? I feel like I don't because I was in the top. That's why.
If
Like
I would have been further down, like the closer you got to like the top 5, the top 10, the more you wanted to know who
I
was in the
literally
top
still
5 and the
remember
top
what
10.
what rank I was in high school. Like that's how obsessed I was.
Okay, I just know like that I was above 20, but I don't remember anything
I was
other than that.
13th.
Okay, cool.
So I was like, "Oh my god, like who's
You want to
who's
know,
getting
right? You want
first?"
to know who it is. And it's just so it's gross
It's
and it's
so
so
annoying.
annoying.
But also
Um
I was like happy to just be in like the top 20. I was like, "Oh, this is sick." Like
yeah, but
if
then
I
you
hit,
get
top 10, that'd be cool, but like I'm super cool about like 13th.
yes,
Like
and then like you
and it was
and
like
then
our group of friends too. It
I
wasn't even
remember
like
like learning who was in the top 10, and once I figured out who was in the top 10, I was like, I'm okay with this.
because I feel like it was our group of like friends or acquaintances
Yeah,
that we
or
all
yeah,
liked
you know the people.
anyway.
It does. It
I
changes it. And
feel like
that's
it'd
why
be
like
different. It'd be different. It
when
was like someone you didn't like.
yeah, and if it when it comes down to like Olympian situations, right? Like when
Yeah.
it's somebody on your team who beats you,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm so happy for you. And that's one of the good things I think about the
Hmm.
Olympics is they do create really good relationships. But one of the issues that I always had, and
Yeah.
two people that and I'll never forget this, I had a really good friend that I danced with growing up. And we are not friends to this day. And I think a big part of it is
Oh
that we
God.
never really had a conversation about how we were always pitted against one another. So when we were younger, we were really close. And then as we started to hit teenage years, and it got to a point where like, especially in our preteen years, like during our awkward stages, like we looked alike, like same body types, like brown
Okay.
hair, similar faces, like we
Yeah.
looked a lot alike. There was always this like outward comparison between the two of us. And then that
Hmm.
comparison kind of started happening between our families, like talking about each of us. And even to this day, in a really gross way, like when our parents still get together and talk, like they do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
not related to dance anymore. And it made it really awkward. And we never actually talked about how awkward it made it.
Hmm.
Um, but it like ruins if you're not if you're really not coming out on the same team and like you have that weirdness, that emotional, like some type of trauma about the competition between the two of you, like my brother and I definitely are still working through, um, it ruins it for you. It ruins the relationship for you.
100%.
Which is why, yeah, like you said, we were okay with people who it were because we were like, all right, like we like you, you're good, like you deserve
You
this.
guys are
We
great.
know
Like
this.
that's fine. Like again, and it's funny because Kate is going through it right now because she's a senior,
Jesus.
and she's like in disbelief with like people that are in the top whatever. She's
Wow.
like so like it's because she doesn't like hanging out with those people. So she's like, oh my god, that's so like I
Yeah.
she didn't know how to feel. So like it really does depend on who you're competing with
Yeah.
slash
Yeah.
against. Because then your
Totally.
mentality switches between the two.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then it's like all of your insecurities about yourself you project onto your dislike of that person and it makes it even more complicated. But so my what I was thinking about with all of this leading into like the concept of overconsumption, right? Is like this and that is so high school, right? That's one of like the typical scenarios of competition that we were like, "Oh my god, this is so high school. Why are we talking about this?" It bleeds into
Your
living a life as a
insecurities.
human, like, yeah, because of that, like it bleeds into our lives, not only in like professional mindsets, right, especially in corporate world where people march and stomp all over each other to get to the first place, but like, or get to the promotion or whatever,
Right,
but
right,
like
right.
even in, and this is the shit that started back in the 50s when like everybody started with mortgages and all started buying houses and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to level up their neighbors, right? It leads into like the overconsumption of product and like shit where people are like, people have a house and they have like 6 storage containers like all over the state because they have all of this crap.
All this shit, yeah.
um but we do it with our neighbors, right? Like, I need to be number one. I have to have the best grass. I have to have a nicer
I have
car.
the
I
best
have
grass.
to
Yeah,
have
which I
like the
never
best
understood.
Halloween decorations out on my
Yeah.
lawn. Like, I feel like I really hope that we're starting to get away from that, but I know that like that level of competition still sits in our heads and is weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Um and I just like, I don't know, I'm reading what I wrote. Like, it leads us
Oh.
to all of this overconsumption just to have things to show that we're the best, right? And then it becomes like a money thing, which makes it even more gross because then everybody ends up in debt because they're using their credit cards to buy all this shit they don't need and then they don't. But
It's just
like,
a vicious cycle.
yeah, like trying to prove your status. Like, and that's what it all comes down to is, and it just, and then it's like, then we end up in all this debt or we end up with all this extra shit that we don't need in our lives and like
And
cue
like,
all
what
this
does it
stress,
matter? What the
right?
hell does it
It,
matter?
right. What does it matter? Cue all this stress. And then we're just like super strung out and burnt out. And we go through this like vicious cycle. And then I feel like parents are doing this to kids younger and younger now, where it's like, oh, you have to do all of these activities. You have to do all of this stuff. You have to like, I want to be able to talk about how you go to piano lessons and you go to tennis lessons and you do that and you do this. Or I want to talk about your awards. And there is no place more where I see that than dance.
Hmm.
Like, and
Interesting.
I
Okay.
guess that's because I'm in it, so like
Yeah,
proximity is
yeah.
everything, but
Mm-hmm.
like there are a lot of parents who's, they're living vicariously through their kids and they're living out, their dreams of competitions and their own sake of,
Why do people do that? Like, why are people like this? Don't parent like that. I don't know. Not that, I have any say in it, but like, that's just so wrong.
it's just this weird, it goes back to that weird gross thing that we were talking about parenting, and it's one of those things that like happens because of us being emotional creatures. It happens without our awareness of it, and if we don't like regulate that, then we end
Yeah.
up doing that to our kids, and it's shitty and it can totally be managed better. But if you're running on autopilot, you're dealing with all these under unnecessary stressors, you're not even awake to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. True.
And like my parents are wonderful. I love them. They're very supportive, but like my parents dealt with a lot of shit when they were also raising my brother and I, and we, like every parent, like even with the best intentions, there's no handbook that tells you. I mean, there are a lot of
Uh,
books now,
now.
but like, and they're not even right. It's like all so specific. Like we were saying, was that last episode or the episode before we were talking about how it's case by case basis in every
Yeah.
case.
Every case is
So
different. Yeah.
not even whatever books are available are going to be the right ones for parents and their kids, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just a complicated situation. So I don't know. And we're going to see it now that the holidays are coming back up and like people are like actually out and doing stuff. I'm really scared of what's going to happen with this whole overconsumption, this whole stress thing. What's that movie where he like does all the lights on the front of his house and he goes crazy? Oh my god, it's one of the classics. Oh, guys, I hope.
Christmas? Are you talking about Christmas
Yeah,
movie?
it's a Christmas movie where he has to put all the lights in front of his house. It's from the 80s. The Griswold family, the holiday one. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I've never seen
Grizz.
it.
Yes, dude, you have to go watch that
I
movie.
don't think I have.
Yeah, Griswold Family Christmas. It was from
Sure.
1989. And any of you who have seen this movie, I hope you're having a moment of like, ha ha ha, that's such a good, it's super funny. Very much my humor. It's like slapsticky. And
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the stuff we just talked about, where he like goes on this huge craze about having to light up the front of his house better than all of his neighbors. And his house looks like a disco ball by the time it's over.
Yeah.
And all this
Okay.
crazy stuff happens. But that's what I'm afraid of. But in forms of like Black Friday.
Oh my God, Black Friday is always such like a bad day to go
It's
out.
literally a perfect example of the result of all the stuff that we just talked about.
Sometimes, I can't even. I've gone out Black Friday to just look around. I don't think I've made a big ass purchase
I
during Black
understand,
Friday.
like the deals are great. I get
The
it,
deals
but
are great,
still feel like it all
but the
stems from, right? Like,
people that just like run each other over for stuff though. And it doesn't even have to be Black Friday. Just like random, like I don't know if you've heard about like these home goods women that like
Mm-hmm.
go to home goods at like 6 o'clock in the morning and buy like whatever latest release of some branded thing is, but they like
Gross.
run each other over for this stuff. And I'm like, what? For what? Why do you need like another bowl for your kitchen?
I know. I mean, what else is going on in their lives, right? That's like the sad truth about
That's
these
true
kinds
too.
of things is like for some people that's all that they have.
And good
And
for
then
them that
it's
they can consume
yeah,
all,
and then it's like,
all this stuff.
then if that you need some they need something. So it's like
Yeah,
I totally understand that, but like
that fulfills their
if
need of
that's where we've come to, like and that's where we're at, like you
the
would rather
capitalism
have
is doing their right the thing.
right. Yeah, capitalism wins. But like if that's what we've come to where you'd rather be consuming things
Mm-hmm.
and instead of like actually having the connection that like we're literally here for by like nature and science of us as beings,
I
I
mean,
feel
that
like
is probably their thing, right? I guess,
that's sad. And
right?
that's like another thing that we could like relate it to. You want to know what? Wally was such a good movie
Wally, yeah.
because it really and it's funny because we all laugh at like how it's going to be the truth of the future, but like it's almost really really sad that it's really going to be the truth of the future where we don't interact with one another and we can't get off the like off a couch and um but
Yeah, yeah.
like even to this day like when we barely interact with neighbors versus remember when we used to have all of our block parties and stuff when we were
Yeah,
younger,
when we were younger,
like
yeah.
neighbors like barely know one another but they compete with one another, which is just like going back to what you said, right? Like you are more likely to feel some type of way about your neighbor that you like the person you don't know than you are with the people that you do know.
Yeah. But like why? Like,
Fear,
ugh. I just think
fear.
it's a manifestation of whatever your insecurity is.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because like what does it matter that someone that I don't know says something about me is my whole thing. And like most people that I know don't have that mentality. And I'm just like, why waste your energy on someone you don't even know?
It's a fear thing, and it's like a it. I think it like it's a psychology of the fact that it harps on like our basic needs of wanting to be seen and like accepted and acknowledged, and like even when someone who you don't know does that to you, and like you know of that, it hits that spot.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And then
Plus,
for
just so
people,
like,
if you
yeah,
think
go
of
ahead.
like if you have a person who doesn't have a lot of that in their life to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
it's like an even like more of a painful strum of the chord than the
Yeah,
people who are surrounded by love and support.
yeah, I guess.
All of this is sad. This is literally just sad. Like the fact that but that's like that's the I don't know, that's the truth I feel, and I feel like when we talk so much about like how do we make it better or like how can we like how do you be a good person, and it's not like you have to go out of your way because the truth is like when you look at back in the day where there was more like I don't think hospitality, just like friendliness and camaraderie like amongst neighbors and people that people didn't know. I feel like there was more space for that built into life, right? There was like
Mm-hmm.
if you especially because a lot of the time like those relationships were built by the women who stayed at home, right?
Yeah.
Like they with the women made those connections and made like and doing all of those community things, and then like the men would eventually fit in. But like women and women are naturally the ones to be the givers who are going to be the ones who cultivate those types of relationships. That's just like
Mm-hmm.
biology and psychology of females. Like that's literally what they do. Like they are the ones who hold together communities, and men are the ones who like defend the communities that are built. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
way things
Mm-hmm.
used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like now that like women are out and going and doing things, and are I was just listening to somebody talk about feminism and how like women always like with gender roles, even outside of gender roles, like even if it's two men or if it's two women that are in a relationship, there's always somebody who takes on like the ideal of like what a woman would do versus what a man would do in the relationship. like someone who always does more or takes on more. I mean, it doesn't have to be related to gender at all, but it's just the stereotypes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but women, like, what space is there to cultivate all of those relationships
Right
in
now.
our lives anymore? Like, what space is there? And even if there is space, like in COVID when we kind of had time to do it, when, well, that doesn't count because we were all afraid of one another, but even if we do
Virtually.
have the time to do it, what skill set do we have in practice to be able to do it well and not be too afraid to do it to begin with?
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think it's like, I think the social aspect, like now compared to back then when all you had was like the people around you, like neighbor wise, or like whatever. Like, I think it's just so vast now because of the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is so, you're connected to so many people, but no one at once.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you can watch all these TikTok videos, these YouTube videos, you can go on Instagram, whatever. You feel connected, but it's not really.
Yeah.
I
And
think
you know
that's
what?
the issue now.
That's such a good point too, because, and I always wondered this, and I don't think it has to do with like, we've talked before about like energy vampires and like
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of things. You're right. We're so out of practice with that because I've kind of gotten to the point now where even where I spend time with people that I love and like I really enjoy being with, I'm still exhausted afterwards because we're just
Yeah.
not, it does. It takes like a really
Yeah.
specific type of energy um to be almost like even more energy than the way you can just like wide net be connected on social media. It takes so much energy to like really be even like when we do this. Like thankfully we're in practice with this and I think we both of us obviously feel really comfortable and like don't have to worry. Like we're not, you know, but
Oh
like
yeah.
when you're with somebody and this is like oh this can segue into what we were going to talk about next a little bit and go even backwards to the stuff we wanted to talk about with work
Mm-hmm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
stressing and overconsumption. So I was at this convention event yesterday with a woman who how you just meet some people and you're like we're just friends, like we were always friends, like we're just
Yeah.
friends. And
Yeah.
um so it was just like that kind of soul, that kind of person. So we went out to eat afterwards and I was like getting to a point where I was like this is wonderful and I love you but like I'm like really tired, like I
Yeah.
don't
Your
know what's
social
going
meter
on.
just like
And then a
is
bunch of
shot.
other people were like starting to come into the restaurant where we were. And like then my COVID trigger started going off on top
Mm-hmm.
of it. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like staring at everybody and I was like, I don't know how much longer like I this is not a you thing, but like I am starting to get really anxious and uncomfortable. And then when I got home, I literally got and showered and got in bed and was like, I am really tired.
Done. You're done.
But you're like what you're saying is it's true. Like we are even out of practice on really being able to do it well one on one and in person for because the way that we get to do it online is just like
It's so instant.
mindless.
Yeah, it's so instant and just like vast. I don't know if people know how vast these social, like just scrolling through TikTok, for an example, like you're literally in other people's lives. They just don't know it because you're just watching their video, but like you're consuming the social aspect of it.
Which is again that overconsumption, right? And like the
Right.
dangers of what can I mean, but it is like it's this weird, this goes back to episode 1. Like guys, if you haven't listened to Maria and I's very first episode where we talk about social media,
I'm sorry, I don't remember
um
episode 1.
um we talk about like how it's great that we have the ability to do this at our fingertips and how it's not good. I'll just say it like
Yeah. Yeah, literally. There isn't anything else that I can add to that because it's a good
but
and bad.
but I really think I mean like going back to that whole idea of like building those skills, I really think that it just kind of starts with like I don't know, just say hi to other people and just like and like whatever if they look at you like you're especially because Marie and I are from New Jersey and a lot of people do look at you like really cockeyed like why are you talking to me. um One of the
Yeah,
things
if
that
you have that ability, because I'm not trying to do that. Not with my anxiety.
I enjoy doing it, and sometimes I
Hell
enjoy
no.
it even more when I get those cockeyed responses because then I'm like, okay, yeah, made you feel uncomfortable, and now you're thinking and you're
Hell
more
no.
aware because you feel uncomfortable. Um,
No, I would
but
just get pissed.
really,
I'd be like, what do you want? Like,
I'd be like, okay, bye, f you, have a good day.
yeah, no, I'm
Uh,
one of those. I'd be like,
one of the
no.
things that I've been trying to practice,
Uh-huh.
um, I don't know, you know how they say like the pay it forward and like one simple kind act, right, a day, like that whole.
Yeah, you can
That
smile at
whole
me, but like
no,
don't
no, I'm
ignore
not even
me.
talking about that. Because I do get like good responses to it. No one's like ever like looked at me weird for doing this, but I've been trying to be really on top of like holding the door open for people.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And like that has been like a good thing.
That's a
So
simple
if
thing.
that's the one simple act that you bring into your day, like you don't want to smile at people, don't even make eye contact. Just look down and hold the door open, and people will still,
Yeah,
it's like a
appreciate
good
that.
thing to do.
Yeah,
Um,
that's very simple.
but yeah, it's crazy how all of those types of scenarios leads like overconsumption. Talk about like overconsumption. This is 100% relevant in the way that we work, friends. And Maria and I are both products of
I was
this.
like,
And
what?
Maria is so much better
Oh,
at like creating boundaries around it
boundaries?
than I am, clearly. But the
Yeah.
friend that I was with yesterday, we were having a conversation about how she was dealing with something in her life and
Hmm.
she 100% should have not gone to work the next day. And she's also somebody who works like in service to others.
Okay.
And she shouldn't have gone to work the next day. And her day at work was just not good, like weird interactions, not something that she felt good about at the end of the day. And she was like, she said to me, she's like, I don't know why I just didn't call out of work. Like I should have called out of work. Like these are the reasons why we get personal days. And like in these types of
Yeah.
situations, like we shouldn't be putting ourselves like more stress on ourselves when we're dealing with stuff and processing with stuff. And it was like it's 100% what you said. Like Maria told me. So Maria, what are you doing for the rest of the year? So proud of you.
Oh, I'm taking half days till the end of half days on Fridays till the end of the year
So cool.
because like I just can't physically do it. And also because I haven't had actual vacation since pre-COVID. Like I haven't gone
True.
anywhere.
True.
So
Feels.
this is like my mini break from work. Cause like there's no way that I can get any good production out of me like towards the end of the week anyway, because I'm just so
Yeah.
tired. So why
Yeah.
bother?
Totally. That's awesome. And
But
it's so nice that you live in a place. You work in a place
basically,
that
I
like
live
makes
I live
space
there.
for that and supports that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you do.
I
You
mean,
live.
I live over there. Um, but when I hear that, friends don't want to take off because they're saving their personal days or like they don't know in the future if they need it for like, I'm like, that doesn't
But
sit right
that's
with
not
me.
them though.
Yeah,
That's
no,
a cultivated
that's what I'm saying.
fear
Like
in their environment, which is
that
how
doesn't
fucked
seem
up
right
that
to
is.
me.
It is. You're
Exactly.
right. It isn't right. And I know that feeling, and that feeling fucking sucks to
Yeah,
feel like guilty about having to take off or feel guilty
it's
about
so
taking
dumb.
days. It is so dumb. I
It's like
totally agree
the
with you. As
dumbest.
a person who does it, I know how fucking stupid it is.
I think it's the
But it's
dumbest thing, and like, it can be literally so much better if companies can just like give people the days off that they want as opposed to having them save up for future
yeah.
things. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like it's just so stupid. Just take a day off if you want to take a day off.
Yeah. Especially if you're
Especially
in a situation where you have personal days.
that, and also especially if you're like, what are you doing? Like work wise, I'm like, I'm an accountant. Literally, if I take a day off, nothing's gonna change.
Literally talking about like how fear, comparison, like competition, how all of these things play into that. It's gross. Like that's
It's
one of the
gross.
ways
Yeah.
that we really try to turn our like we
Mm-hmm.
it's like square peg round hole where we try to be robots but we're not robots, and that's one of the places where it becomes so evident. And I remember when
Mm-hmm.
um so my mother was a teacher for like 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember with teaching, I mean this isn't the case anymore, and I remember this happened with Dan when he was working with a corporation as well. um like sick days and stuff, you used to get paid out the days that you didn't use, so
Which also, oh my god, yeah, that's an added layer. Go
everybody
ahead.
would get really excited about like I don't want to use my days if I can keep them, right? If I can, over years like they accrue. And my
Yeah.
mother was somebody who was grandfathered into this. She was like fortunate,
Yeah.
um because I mean fortunate but not fortunate, because she had accrued quite a chunk of like unused personal days and sick days, and that just becomes
Mm-hmm.
money in the bank for her. um and
Yeah.
then this whole thing happened when she actually got injured,
Yeah.
when she broke her foot and she had to use them, and there was all this stuff that went on towards the end. But she was able to get a decent amount of money from the days that she hadn't used. I don't remember my mom like literally ever taking sick days, unless like we were sick. I don't I she like, good lord bless that woman. Um,
You know what's
but
funny too? My parents take personal days. That's also a thing that like is also ingrained in me too. I feel like that I haven't even it just came to my mind. I'm like,
hmm,
oh, but my
this
mom
is a
takes
lot.
off. Like my dad also will because he works for the airlines.
Yeah.
He can trade days with his coworkers or whatever. So he
Mhm.
can take like if things come up, he's like, oh, let me just trade a day so I can be free for this, whatever. So it's like even I guess even your parents, just
Oh
seeing them
yeah.
take the days
And that
off.
makes sense because like I don't think Dan's parents ever really took days. Like Dan and I both have a weird thing about taking days off, and you're right. Like those like what you see in your parents 100%
Yeah,
influences.
like my
And
mom will
we
take
both
literal
struggle trying to
yeah.
break that.
Yeah, and like it's funny because like my mom will be like, I don't want to go to work. Let me see if I can take a day off. And we'll just do it if she can. If she can't, she'll like, all right, let me try another
That's
day.
brilliant. And that like that's honestly one of the big things that pushes the both of us to want to like not have to work full time
Yeah.
because like not have to be
Be that way where you're like scared to
not have
take a
to
day
be in a
off.
place not even that where I have to answer to somebody else about whether or not I can,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um and I hate to say this guys, but like but like even when you have a business of your own, if you're and this is like I said this is like the issue of me being only by myself, and this is like another big thing that I like am working on expanding, but I'm also too scared to do because it doesn't have to be that way. I totally could be expanding and
Mm-hmm.
bringing more people onto my team, but I'm a nutcase. So the whole issue of like even if you feel like you have a business of your own and you don't want like you have the right to be able to say okay you don't have to work today, like if it's just you, if you're not working, you're not making income, and then you also still feel like you're servicing others. So if you don't have somebody else to help service your people, then you're stuck. So you
Yeah.
literally still have the issue of feeling like you can't actually, you get to control your schedule, but like you don't actually control. You don't have the freedom to make the choice to not do things. Um,
Uh-huh.
so that's just
Uh-huh.
a thing to keep in mind, friends who feel like they want to have a business of their own. Like the things that I wish I knew earlier. Um, and that is one of the things I have to keep reminding myself to keep growing it and not be afraid to grow it because that's where I want to get to.
So the root of all evil is money.
Yeah. Well, my issue isn't even my. It's
Not just
partially.
you, not just you personally. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah. Well, yes, but like the root is like it's two trees. It's like those trees in Hawaii that like
Split?
they like wherever they hit the ground they root again, so like they keep
Okay.
growing. It's like two different trees that are intertangled like that. It's money and like for me it's also like the guilt and being in service to others.
Yeah.
I don't like telling people like oh I don't feel well or I'm dealing with something. This is so fucked up for me to be able to say out loud, but like
Go ahead.
I
You're
can't
gonna
I'm
have to
not
right now.
I'm not in a place where like I should be giving to you because I'm not in a good spot, but like I have guilt about not giving to you, so I'm going to give to you
Forget
anyway.
that.
And
Forget that shit. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Forget it. There's literally no way
you want
that
to know what has been like super helpful? Yeah, and you want
what?
to ends up becoming really bad for me is that I use doing that as a distraction from the shit that I don't want to deal with. So that's fun
I
too.
know.
But I
Yeah.
have to say in all the ways that my wedding has been like, it's been really good for that because I can't like avoid stuff. And I like
Hmm.
literally force myself to be like, no, I cannot see you these days. Like I can't. So I'll come out on the other side of this with better boundaries, I think.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Oy
We'll see
vey.
about that.
But yeah, it's just sad. Like it's sad that that's our reality, and it's so like when you take somebody who's stressed out, burnt out, over consuming, like, and then you, for like even the both of us to have to do the work to be aware of it is just another thing to add on. And like, ignorance is bliss. Like, I don't blame the people who choose to be ignorant of this and just fall into like the easy, already flowing river of like trying to live like a robot and do all of this. But I
Fine,
feel
let them
bad.
be.
Yeah, like I just feel bad that the powers that be who can do something about it, and this is like relevant to climate change and racism and like all the other major things that are just destroying our existence. Um, the powers that be aren't doing anything about it,
Hmm.
and because of
Because it's
money,
working in their favor.
right? Because of money, um, and that's just frustrating. So I feel
That's
like
just human nature.
take days off, guys. Just and I'm saying this like to you, and I'm saying it to me
To
just as much as
yourself.
I'm saying it to you, which is why Maria is laughing. But like I don't know. It goes back to that phrase like you're not born so that you can live to work. You're born to work so that you're born and then you work so that you can live.
Yeah, don't make work your
Because money is
some
a
people
means to an end. It's not the end.
some people enjoy working long hours
Yeah.
and like healthily. Like and that's fine. Just I feel like it's just know your limits.
Yeah. But it's like we need better systems that teach us about how to figure that out.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
our entire system
Duh.
of education that we experience growing up doesn't do that, which is why like most people have quarter century life crises like I did.
Like yeah,
Because you're
so did I.
transitioning out of that system and you're like, holy shit,
Yeah, it's a whole different
life doesn't work
ball
this
game.
way. But like the way that I was trained is not the way that life works. And like now I have
Did you
to
get perfect attendance in school?
in what school?
School.
Like our regular school?
Hmm.
No. And I didn't want when I was little I feel like I did, but like when I got older, and the only probably reason why I didn't is a couple of things. One was if I did anything related to dance on like a Sunday night, I
Hmm.
wasn't going to school the next day. Like my mom
Mm.
understood that as like me needing to sleep. But I feel like I had days where I was sick. I never played hooky from school. If that's where we like
Oh no, me
actively
neither.
like you should take a personal day from school. I never did that. But like I missed days.
Oh, I got perfect attendance.
Of course you did.
What's that supposed to mean?
I'm not surprised at all, knowing
But isn't
you.
it funny how
You
like
also never got sick, you jerk. I was sick all
yeah,
the time.
physically sick, mentally that's a whole different
Well,
story.
right,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
very true. Yeah.
But isn't it funny now? I don't
I
have
know.
perfect
Well, good
attendance at
for
all.
you. That's amazing. When I was in college, it took me a long time
I
to
played hooky in college a
no, it
ton.
took me a long time to like do that well. I was always so afraid about like when and I'll never forget the classes that this started with my psychology 101 class freshman year when I like started my minor. I was like, first of all, talk about I did not stop going to class for like the right reasons, but I was so afraid of not going to class, but I sat through like three classes and was like, this is a waste of my goddamn time. I'll learn this better if I just look at the text and do it myself.
You learn to know which classes you don't have to go to.
Yeah, and it's you learn to be, and it was shit
It's just
scary for me to
independent
be like,
learning.
oh my God, what's gonna, to this day, to this day, I have this like response where like if I'm not going, even when I have a client and I cancel because I don't feel good, or like I'm supposed to be somewhere and like for some whatever reason I'm not gonna be there, when it gets close to the time where I know that I would be there, like I'm supposed to be, I have like a mini like moment of like, oh my God.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
it's like when like 1999 changed in 2000 everybody thought the world was going to end like the second the clock changes I have a moment of like this is where it all ends like
Oh my
Brittany you're
god.
not going to do something that you're supposed to be doing this is how
It's
it
a
ends and
lot to unpack there.
that that used to happen in college and to this day like I still it's way less than it used to be but I still have a moment of like oh my God and then it goes away.
There's a lot there, dude.
There's a lot there guys there's a lot everywhere when it comes to all of this stuff with me um but it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it is
Take
what
a
it is.
day off.
I'm going to. I'm taking a whole week off. I'm not
Because you're
working
getting
from
married.
Thursday to
Because everyone needs to know it's because you're getting married. Like it's not like an actual vac. I mean, it is a vacation, but it's not like out of a whim. I'm taking a week off. Don't fool us. Like
I know. I can't. I know. I'm fully aware of the fact that I can. It's not like I'm going to be doing nothing either. I'm going to be running around like a nutcase.
right.
I'll get there. I'll get better at it.
Hmm. Right.
I'm better than I was. Little steps. All my little steps count.
Yeah. 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 Okay.
Okay. Well, that was everything I think we were going to talk about today.
Yeah. This week. Yep.
We covered
I
it a
think so.
lot.
Hmm.
And next time we're definitely going to have a conversation about burnout. So we will not be joining you guys next
Yeah. Correct.
Tuesday, but you will see so many pictures and lots of, I'm sure, a ton of funny stories. What's exciting me the most
Yeah.
about next week is that I keep so much of this journey has been like like Dan and I focusing on what's happening with us or like the people in our like immediate family or like the people we don't have a really big wedding party because it was just going to be too much of a headache so just really tiny focus and like what it's going to look like. But the last couple of days I've been like thinking like and like realizing like, oh, this person's going to be there and that person's going to be there and I'm going to see these people, and like that's what's making me so excited, is just like getting to be around, like especially with COVID, like when was the last time I was around all the people that I love and care about the most, and like getting to celebrate something cool.
Right. And
Like
so that'll
that's
be
what's so
exciting.
exciting. Like
Yeah.
that makes me feel like a
Good.
little kid inside. I'm like, I can't wait
Good.
for that. So yeah, you'll see lots of pictures, and I'm sure there'll be lots of memories,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll see us after that, and we're gonna talk about burnout, and it's gonna be
Great.
a whole thing.
It's gonna be great.
Awesome. All right, what am I supposed to say at the end of this now?
Oh, you wrote it down somewhere.
I know, I'm gonna find it. I don't know where I wrote it. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, friends. So just remember that you deserve to live your best life. So don't be afraid to be more.
Okay, bye.